You're watching HCAM TV.
Good afternoon, Hopkinton, and welcome to the Hopkinton Hangout Hour. I'm Mike Trejo, your host for today. We're sort of taking a beach day. It looks like I'm at the beach, but we're going to be revisiting a couple shows today. We have Jim Cousins going to sit down with the previously recorded conversation with Karen Cooprider, talk about the art of neighboring, which there's a little art to it. It's not as easy as everyone thinks, you know. Bob's a good neighbor, and he knows that it's something he has to work on.
Thanks, Mike. That's right.
Well, you know that. And so we're going to see that. And that's going to, in the second half hour, Tom Nappy is going to sit down with his buddy Eric Belseth and talk about music and concerts. So that'll be coming up in the second half hour. Tomorrow, we're going to be back again live, and we'll have our Board of Health update with Board of Health Director Sean McAuliffe and Nurse Casey Morrow. And on Friday, we have Tom Nappy will bring in Rich Cormier, the athletic director at the high school. Tell us what's going to happen for sports or what's not going to happen for sports this coming school year and how that information is constantly changing. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to bring you right in to the shows coming up. We have, again, first half hour, Jim Cousins and Karen Cooprider, followed by Tom Nappy and Eric Belseth.
This half hour is Karen Cooprider, and we're going to be talking about the art of neighboring. Did I get that right, Karen?
I guess so, yeah.
So welcome to our show.
Thank you.
All right. So I'm really curious, before we actually talk about that, let's get a little bit of history on you for those who may not know you. Tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. I'm Karen. I'm married to my husband for 31 years, Kurt. We lived in Hopkinton for 23 of those years, so we're pretty much longtime residents. Not townies, but longtime residents. We have 4 daughters. They're all in their 20s. All grew up here in Hopkinton, gone to Hopkinton High School. They, the oldest is married and has 2 kids, so we're grandparents to 2 young children, a girl and a boy. And 2 of them work, and the youngest is a grad student at BC. I don't know my background, actually, education-wise. I went to MIT and studied aerospace engineering.
Which means you're a rocket scientist.
Yeah. So if you need one of those, right? If something's confusing, you know, and it doesn't take rocket science. If you do need a rocket scientist, we have one in the house. But I haven't done engineering in years. Stayed at home, raised my kids, did some other odds and home businesses. Most recently, I was about 8 years. I was the youth director at Faith Community Church in Hopkinton. The last couple of years, I've been at home, kind of doing little things here and there. One thing being that it seems interesting to me that neighboring has been a passion of mine, and I've been kind of reading a lot of books in that area and put together a curriculum for groups at our church and done some of that. So hence, I think it's interesting with the COVID situation that it's kind of surfaced at the top of people's awareness. And so it's relevant to today.
Yes, absolutely. Now, are any of your kids home with you now, or are they out sheltering home?
Yeah, so today 2 of them are here, and our youngest lives with us. She's commuting. Well, I guess she's virtual now, but she was commuting to BC. And then my second daughter, she and her fiance are living here for a couple weeks. They've been going back and forth between his parents' house and our house. So right now we have 3 20-somethings with us.
Yes, yeah. All 3 of our kids are at home right now too.
Oh, you have them all, okay.
Yeah.
We also have my parents. We just put an addition on. We have an in-law apartment, and so my parents live here too. Those are our closest neighbors.
Wow, that's a full house.
Yeah, we don't interact too much with them, especially with COVID. We have with thing, and we visit maybe once a day just through the door, or out on the front porch if it's a nice day.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like a nice day today. I didn't expect that.
Mm. So now I actually don't know about this, but are there any of the businesses that you've dabbled in the past that you can talk about? I'm interested to see what would interest you.
What would interest me?
Yeah, like what had interested you? What businesses were you working on when you were doing some businesses?
Yeah, I believe it or not, for about 10 years, I was a creative memories consultant.
Oh, we love creative memories.
Yeah, I know.
That's
I-
so great.
Yeah, so I haven't worked on a photo album in years, but used to help people put together photo albums and teach classes on that. That was,
How come you haven't worked on a photo album in years?
well, because once I went digital, I have them all on the computer, and if I do a photo album at all, it tends to be a Shutterfly book or something like that.
Okay, but that
So,
counts, Karen. That
it
totally
does.
counts.
Done like 3 of those, so.
Okay, yeah, Linda's transitioned to that too, and
I see, really.
yeah, I think she's doing Mixbook now. Mixbook, I think is the name of it.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's one of those websites designed specifically for doing that. But
Yeah.
those are great because they're fun to work on, and then you have like a real printed book.
Well, I have said, actually, I'm trying to just get caught up on some of the things that I'm doing right now. But if this continues where I'm not working or whatnot, then I do want to sit and maybe do a book a year on Shutterfly. Since I have all the pictures gathered by year on my computer, if I just pick the best ones, throw it into Shutterfly, and create a book, then I can have, and then I could print multiple copies for each of my daughters. I thought
Yep.
that would be a project that I could see myself doing, but I haven't yet gotten to.
Yeah.
In fact, there are some other things that I've done. I did work at a cafe. I worked at Bittersweet for about a year. So I worked in a coffee shop, which was a load of fun. I love seeing the people in town. I love them coming in and out. I did catch your show yesterday, and I have Cooprider family recipes. I did that last year.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great.
Yeah, so I was listening. They're not gluten free though, and I know people who would probably pay for your book.
Now, what I'm interested in is what did you make your book in? Did you use Microsoft Word or Publisher or some other kind of program?
I think I ended up doing it in Microsoft Word.
Okay.
Yeah. What do you do yours in?
Google Docs.
Straight up, it's less formatting ability in Google Docs. I could make it prettier in Word.
Well, you think so?
I don't know. I'm just more proficient.
Because you know what? I wasn't gonna do this, but now you're making me do this.
Oh, what are you gonna do?
What I've done so far is I started, as I said, she's got a whole bunch of recipes, and I started with the table of contents.
Yep.
So I'm going to share my screen so you can see what my table of contents looks like.
All right.
All right, here. Okay. Now, so this is it right here.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And like as I was mentioning, we kind of have it chopped up into these different things. And then we have Rachel's special recipes.
Yeah.
And then the specials that we have. And then what I'm doing is this one here I didn't do yet, but this was my first test one. And what I like about this is what we always say is get out all the ingredients. So I put all the ingredients first, and then I put the measurements after, because I think it makes it easier to just go down the list.
I like that. Yeah.
And
well,
then
yours is formatted beautifully. I like it.
Well, thank you. It's what that for me, that is my fun. I like playing around with that. So now I got like 60 pages of that to kind of go through and get everything standardized.
Oh, nice.
All right. Now we're ready for the main event, Karen.
All right.
I'll be honest with you. Going to Faith Community with you was really exciting because you were always so involved in the life of the church. And you always have been very interested in how other people are doing and in connecting with them and in growing with them. So when I was referred to you for the Art of Neighboring, I don't know where that came from, but that sounds exactly like you.
You think
So,
so? You think
yeah,
so?
I do. I do. So I would like to start off, if you wouldn't mind, by defining and describing, like, what is the concept of the art of neighboring?
Sure. Um, back when we first moved in, one of the things that my husband and I did was we said, well, we should get to know our neighbors, or at least who lives around us. So we right out the gate, the first year we lived here, we just sent out flyers with our kids. We distributed them. They were little kids at the time, but we invited everybody for a block party, and we had a big cookout. Everybody brought their own meat to grill and something to share, and made it real low maintenance. Um, and the police and fire. I don't know if we did this right away, but eventually we would invite them, and they would bring a fire truck or a police car or both, and they'd lead the kids in a bike parade and strollers just around the little block that we live on. And so it was just kind of natural for us to at least connect people, whether we knew everybody or not. At least that people could visit and get to know their neighbors a little bit. But neighboring, we talk about the art of neighboring, and neighboring is a verb in the way that I'm using it, but it really simply means being a good neighbor, and like and that would be maybe caring for the people around us and allowing them to care for you, reciprocal giving and receiving of good neighboring. It means having real conversations with and getting to know the people that are right around you, right, that live right around us. Literally learning someone's name, listening to someone's story, um, giving help or receiving help. Just basically doing life with people without an agenda, with a business or religious or political or otherwise agenda. Just um, getting to know and living life with people. Um, and so it's always been something I've been interested in. As you said, even, I mean, I'm just a relational person. And I'm not necessarily, it's funny, I know all the names of the people that I live around, which not a lot of people do actually. They don't often know the names of the people they live around. And I know some of the stories, but especially when I was working at probably more than full time at the church, I was less connected to my neighbors because we get busy. And that's kind of the way we as a world operate. We tend to get busy and lose touch with people. But since I quit my job, I've been reading a lot, and even actually before then, and I read this book called The Art of Neighboring. It looks like this,
Mhm.
and in the book, the mayor of Arvada, Colorado, is meeting with a group of 20 pastors, and one of the things he says that I thought was really wise was he said that the majority of the issues that our community face would be eliminated if or drastically reduced if people could just figure out a way to become a community of good neighbors.
Hmm.
And he even talked about, like, and I think this is true, that when we have a major crisis or a major situation going on, the first responders are truly our neighbors. If there's an issue and somebody needs help or somebody needs checking on, um, the relationships that we have with our neighbors are critical, and that actually becomes a first responder situation. Um, but he was speaking to, like I said, a group of Christian pastors, a group of them. And what's interesting in the book is when they heard his words, they immediately thought of that they'd just gotten schooled in their own religion, because when Jesus was asked what the greatest commandment was, his reply was, love the Lord your God with all your heart and soul and mind. And the second is like it, love your neighbor as yourself.
Mm.
Like, he simplified everything. So if you're looking at it from a Christian perspective, Jesus told us the magic formula was to love God and love your neighbors. And they started to ask one another, what if that was literal? What if he literally meant the people that live in the 8 houses around us, and we start there and love our neighbors literally? What would that look like? What would happen if everybody did that in our community and they took this great commandment literally? And so they went with that, and that's what the idea of that book, which struck me because it was right in line with the way I was thinking. Because like I said, people get busy, but also people get driven by media and fear, and so people begin. Our culture even before coronavirus, was a culture of isolation or loneliness. People, you picture, especially in suburbia where we live in Hopkinton, people come home from work at the end of the day and you push the button so the garage goes up, drive in, shut the garage, go inside, peace and quiet. If you see something, if you try to go out and get your mail when nobody's out there, because if somebody's out there, you might have to talk to them. There's this idea of loneliness and isolation, which is elevated because we're ordered to stay home now in this COVID crisis. So I think that one of the worthiest endeavors we could go after is to be good neighbors in this time, especially. Really take this seriously and learn to be in relationship with the people around us. If you're like me and you're at home pretty much 99% of the time right now, when I look out any window, the people I see or the homes I see are the closest neighbors, the people that I'm going to probably interact outside my family in my house. Those are the people that I have the opportunity to know. And so I think we're in a unique opportunity if we take advantage of getting to know our neighbors right now in this time, the person next door, the person across the street, the person across the counter if you go into a grocery store or take out food or something. So it was interesting though, because, we engage in physical distancing practices right now. And I think there's one important thing to note, a difference between is social distancing and social isolation, because isolation and loneliness are things that negatively impact our whole well-being, mentally, physically. We have far fewer face-to-face interactions right now. And yet at the same time, I know in my neighborhood, there are way more people out walking the neighborhood than ever before. And so there's actually opportunity here, I think, to build connections with people who live near us that can make a big difference in our lives, in their lives, and actually in the town of Hopkinton and in our community. The key, of course, is learning to do that from 6 to 10 feet away. But
right, yeah, and this is obviously an unprecedented situation that we're in, and I assume that the book that you read and the thoughts that you're having about it predate this worldwide pandemic.
absolutely.
So, yeah, so that's interesting. And Bob, I'll be interested in your opinion on this too, because I've always felt that the world is becoming faster and busier, and as technology grows and becomes more convenient that we carry the whole world in our pocket on the internet, we're so much more connected, but we're always on. I look back to when I was a kid, and I hate to sound like, an old man, but it just seemed like a much simpler time than today's world. And when I say that, I only mean in terms of the amount of busyness, the amount of demands that are happening on us. And it just feels to me like people in today's world are less connected because they're so much busier within their own worlds. Bob, what are you thinking?
Well, I think this is for me. I'm sitting here looking at a 14-inch screen, talking to 3 people, and I'm oblivious to what's happening around me or what's outside me. I think that's a kind of a small microcosm of what's really going on. It's hard to feel connected to the world when you're sitting in a cubicle looking at it on a monitor. If you're out, like a lot of people do, and a good idea is to get out on the trails, walk, and feel nature and feel the vastness that's out there. It makes you feel a lot more like a part of the universe rather than trying to dive into the computer. And that's where my life is. So I think that's true, that's what's happening. And I'd be interested, Karen, I don't know where you live in town, but when you use the idea of connecting with your neighbors, obviously the whole town are our neighbors, but you've been in the same location for a number of years. Have you seen your neighbors come and go? Has it made it more difficult to maintain that?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. For sure, there's been turnover in our neighborhood where probably 50% of the houses have different people living in them now than 23 years ago. And so And in the middle of our time here, probably for about 10 years, we didn't do these neighborhood block parties, which can have up to a couple hundred people. But um, and so recently, in the last 5 years, when we started them up again, it's a whole new group of people that is coming, which is really fun to watch if you just step back and kind of watch what's going on as people visit and hang out and children play and kids get to know each other as well that way. But yeah, it's the other thing that's interesting though is that the people that you don't know well that you've lived next to and they've lived here for 20 years as well, those are actually the ones that are harder because there's an embarrassment or an awkward feeling when you go to somebody and say, so I know we lived next to each other for 20 years, but I don't know your name and I'm embarrassed to say that. And so sometimes that's an obstacle for people to want to get to know people. But what's funny is I've been helping people lead classes on this topic over the past year and a half, and to a person, everybody says that right now it's way easier to talk to a neighbor than it's ever been. There's no awkwardness because it doesn't matter if you knew them before, if you meet them for the first time, if you see somebody and you're taking a walk and they're passing you on the street or whatever, everybody welcomes a gentle hello, introduction. How are you doing? Is your family doing okay in this? Everybody healthy? And you can quickly go deeper and understand a little bit more about their story and your story in this time because there's a connection that's easy to make right now. And so that's a helpful thing right now to get to know people and leverage that to know our neighbors and look after their needs.
Did you find that one of the one of the easier ways to get connected with your neighbors, you mentioned that you didn't do your block parties for the first 10 years you were here. Was it the fact that you had children that were mixing among the neighborhood children that caused to be more of a family environment?
Yeah, when we had our kids and they were younger, it was you notice that even now, it's easy for the families that have kids. They're the ones that want to come to the party because the kids want to play. They want to go around the bike parade. They want to play with their friends.
Right.
We knew our neighbors better when our kids were in the neighborhood or when our kids were in school. And then there was the gap in between where Kurt and myself, we were just working and we didn't have kids around. And so we did it less. We've gone back to it, especially now that I'm home. But yeah, and having a conversation like this for our listeners as they're listening to and watching today, just talking about this topic changes then how you see people and the opportunities that you see are before you. Some people get a little stressed going through a class like this or talking about this topic because they think, I don't have time for this. I can't add one more thing to my already busy calendar. When I get home from work, I don't want to get into a conversation or have to have a friend over for dinner, a neighbor over for dinner. I don't want to do any. And what I tell people is, this isn't an adding to your to-do list thing. It does require somewhat of a willingness to be interruptible or a little bit flexible. But really, by having this conversation, what just happened in each of you guys and anybody who's listening is your eyes just opened to possibilities that you encounter on a daily basis as you go about your normal business. So as you interact with people, you might think, I know what Karen was talking about. I should say hi to that person right now and ask them how they're doing. I know that's what I should do right now. And before you would have thought something different, like I'm going to quick turn around and go down the other aisle in the grocery store so I don't have to talk to that person. But neighboring is all about making connection, and it might require a 5 minutes of your time to have that conversation, but it's not adding things to your calendar necessarily. It's encountering and engaging the opportunities that present themselves as you go about your daily life that I think are fairly easy to do. We just don't tend to do that.
Yeah, I agree. I think also too that that's a really important point that you mentioned about doing something small. And you're just thinking about Cindy going, because when Bob was speaking about going outdoors and kind of feeling connected to the world, I didn't realize how much I was lacking that. I'll take my dog out to relieve himself one more time, and it's 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, and all the stars are out, and I'm listening to the wind in the trees, and just those few moments are enough to make me think, wow, I don't really have enough of this in my life. So just getting a taste of it is enough to really spark a desire for it.
Right. And it doesn't have to be complicated. In fact, the simple first step, and what this in particular, this book talks about, you can't love somebody when we're told to love our neighbors or just befriend the people around us. And first of all, not everybody's going to want to be your friend or want or engage, and that's fine. It is just a few connections that are around you anyway. But you can't do any of this if you don't know somebody's name. And so the basic first step in any of these situations, whenever you meet somebody, is to introduce yourself. Hi, my name is Karen. What's your name? A simple question, because suddenly that creates connection, because our name is personal, right? But then beyond that, things that people can do really simple, like you said, Jim. They don't have to be complex and earth-shattering, but you could reach out to somebody with an email or a phone call, or you could, when you see somebody outside, like I said before, make a point to talk to them or ask somebody how they're doing, especially during the crisis. You could, and I know, Jim, your old neighborhood does a great job at this whole neighboring thing. The one up by Stewart and up there,
Yep.
Jamie Lane. But they, you can create a neighborhood directory so that when there is a need or there is an opportunity or there is an invitation, then people can communicate with one another. Right now, you could host virtual connections with your neighbors, or you could sit outside in the front yard in a big circle with some chairs and have drinks in the afternoon or whatever, and visit with one another in somebody's yard. Clearly, everybody's going on social distancing walks or a virtual trivia night or game night of sorts. But one of the biggest things that I think is important in neighboring for everybody to consider is to take care of those who are vulnerable or need help in life, not just today, but in life. It's good to know who are the elderly people, who are the disabled, or the sick, or who are the single parents that might need a little assistance because they're home with kids by themselves. Today, who are the people who are first responders who are out working all the time and might need help at their house. But for all of those people, to know their name, to know their story a little bit, and introduce yourself and check in regularly, to offer them help. With the elderly, somebody who's older in your neighborhood, to help them connect on Zoom so that they can talk to their family or whatever. But certainly errands, if you run into the grocery store, I'm going to the grocery store, can I pick anything up for you? Just simple little things that I think I know growing up. If my mother was baking and she needed eggs, she didn't go to the grocery store. She talked to her next door neighbor first. Or if we were going to play out, if they needed to run somewhere, they just, we're going out tonight. Can you keep an eye on the kids? The kids have your phone number, whatever. It was just this, that was who you did life with. And we've gotten away from that as a society, as a culture. And I think that going back to that would be hugely positive. So that's just what I get excited about.
Sure. I agree with that. In fact, our street now, we have an email chain where we, when somebody sees the fox in their backyard, they'll like send out a little picture of it and stuff like that. So that's always really, really nice. One quick question I'm thinking about, Karen, are you a native New Englander?
Yes. Yep. I was born in Connecticut, New Britain. I lived there until I was 6, and then I moved to Sturbridge, where I grew up.
Oh, well, that's even more impressive for you to be this, because New Englanders are usually so much more reserved than that.
Right.
So we only have a couple of minutes left, and I think that it's really valuable hearing what you're saying, because I think will spark and connect with people and give them a real opportunity to do some of these things. You had some real concrete examples, way to overcome awkwardness and just introduce yourself with your name, and see people, in the supermarket from a safe distance. Think about people who are first responders. Think about people who may have needs. Those are all really good jumping off points. So in this last minute or so, is there anything else that you can tell us? Maybe an anecdote about something that worked really well for you, or an exciting experience that you had, or any other tips or advice you would give us?
Yeah, a couple things that, I mean, the simplest thing that my husband and I did was we moved 2 Adirondack chairs from the backyard to the front yard. And we did this a year and a half ago. So especially when it's nice out, to go sit out in the evening with a beer or whatever, and people walk by, and even if they don't come up from the street, they'll have a conversation with you from the street. And the same goes if you move a grill. We moved our bonfire pit when coronavirus hit. We moved our bonfire pit to the front yard, and we have bonfires at night. And again, the same thing happens. People not only stop in the street and chat with us, but sometimes they'll come and bring a chair and sit around the fire with us. And they're just neighbors who live right around us. So those kind of things are fun. The other thing that I think of that it's another way to get to know, if you learn people's names, you could draw like a tic-tac-toe board and put the names of the houses of the people that live in those houses. Writing them down is, I think, like anything, it helps you remember it. And if you visually see it, next time you see somebody, you might remember their name. So we call it a block map, just kind of who lives near me, what are their names, maybe a little bit about the details that you're learning as you go, the schools the kids are going to, different where they go to work or things like that. But from that map too, whether I'm walking or just using that map, I like to go around if I'm not interacting with people and just pray for people.
Mm-hmm.
Just pray for people and what's going on in their houses and situations, whether I know the situations or not. But I think that connects you to people as well. So
that is great. That is great. Hey, thank you so much for coming on our show, and I hope that you come back and give us some more thoughts and insights on that.
Thanks for having me.
All right, you're awesome. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone, to the Hopkinton Hangout Hour. And in this portion, we are going to be talking about music and concerts, and our guest should be joining us soon. We're going to have my good friend Eric Belseth on the show. He is a longtime online radio host, and he's just getting situated right now. There he is.
What's up? What's up, Tom?
Hey, Eric. How are you?
Hi. How's it going over there?
It's going good. It's going good. Are you in your, what is that, an isolation war room or something?
I'm at SHIELD headquarters.
I love it. Well, you got a green screen and you're having some fun with that. But...
Yeah. My dogs are gonna knock it over at any moment. Just be aware. So when you see everything just collapse behind me, it was my dogs.
Well, it looks awesome. Love it. So why don't you tell the people a little bit about yourself? You've been doing radio for a number of years. We had a radio show in college together, and then it went on to the online format. So just tell everyone a bit about your radio experiences.
Yeah, I've been doing a radio show off and on since 2006. And well, I mean, basically I've focused mainly on the harder rock side of things. We love to throw in classic rock here and there, and a lot of independent music as well. We like people not signed to labels, none of the major labels. We like smaller labels. We like indie performers, and yeah, I've been doing it since 2006, and I love it.
Absolutely, and especially back in our college days, we had some great artists in there, some great independent artists performing live in the studio. So that was always a cool experience. And we had the chance to talk to a number of cool celebrities.
Yes.
You do have
yes,
some
we did.
connections.
Yeah, we've spoken to Kim Coates from Sons of Anarchy a few times. We talked to Walton Goggins, who has a pretty big show on CBS, I believe now.
Yes.
Yeah, he's got his own liquor company now. He was on Justified and The Shield before that. So he's one of America's hidden gems in acting.
And then, of course, Danny Trejo.
Oh, Danny Trejo. Who can forget Danny Trejo? We had him on video. My favorite moment of that interview was when our friend Jared got yelled at in the middle of the interview. And then of course, we've also had a number of people. We've had Cheech on the show from Cheech and
Yes.
Chong. Um, I,
Cheech Marin.
yeah, Cheech Marin. Yeah.
Oh, that was a great interview too. And then Charlie Day. I'm always sunny in
Yes.
Philadelphia.
Charlie Day. We've had Charlie Daniels from the Charlie Daniels Band on as well.
And we'll be talking more about Charlie Daniels because that's
Yeah.
a concert we've seen, and he always throws on a great show over at Indian Ranch in Webster. So really, the topic of today's show, it's going to be talking about concerts. It's going to be talking about music. So what are some of the best concerts that you've been to, Eric? And do you have a particular one that was your favorite, or is it just so many that you love that you just can't pick a favorite?
It's really hard to pick a favorite because I have been to so many concerts. But Charlie Daniels does stick out in my mind. And if I had to pick a favorite, I've seen him probably 10 times throughout my life. I started going to see him when I was a small child, and I've been continuing to see him as many times as I can. The favorite concert of his that I went to was when they had the Charlie Daniels statue dedicated to him at Indian Ranch when he was there performing. That was a really special concert.
And Indian Ranch is a really cool venue. For those that don't know, it's in Webster. It's out right on the lake, and you actually have people pulling up on their boats, taking in the concert. I've actually been on a boat in Webster Lake and done that a few times. You can get pretty close. You get a pretty decent view, so you could take in a bit of a free concert. But it's just such a cool venue out there. Just a great atmosphere.
Yeah, Lake Chargogagog Manchagagog Charbungagogamog is a great place for a concert.
I'm not even going to try to name that lake. It does have a very long name, and you could see it right on the little store. The stores next to it, they have a big sign that says what you just said.
Charlie Daniels wouldn't say it either. We tried to get him to say it on the show, and he refused. He has is it his drum? I believe it's his drummer or his keyboardist that can say it, and he does say it at every concert that they go to.
If you could say it, that's pretty impressive. It is not easy to say. But yeah, that was a great concert. One band that I've been to a lot, 311. I've been to several of their concerts. They always put on a good show. So you're a hard rock guy. Who are some of your favorite like hard rock concerts?
I definitely enjoy going to see Godsmack. I'm wearing their shirt today. Korn is another good one. Really good show that I went to was Korn and Rob Zombie together. Buck Cherry always puts on a good show. Powerman 5000, another good one I've seen many, many times. Dope does well too. I like Dope as well.
Those must be crazy atmospheres over there.
It can get wild.
Yeah, I've been to a number of various concerts. I've been to everything, such as a band like 311 or a country group like Charlie Daniels, to a pop star like Bruno Mars. Went to that concert. That was really good. That was over at TD Garden. It was a couple of summers ago. And then Taylor Swift at Gillette Stadium. She put on a great show. Camila Cabello was the opener for that one. That was a lot of fun. And then some festivals. The Sprite Liquid Mix Tour was good way back. That was Jay-Z was the opener for that. 311 was one of the acts. I think the Roots were there as well. But I love going to concerts, just like you do. Do you have a favorite venue that you like to go to for concerts?
Not a particular. I love the smaller venues where it's a lot more intimate. But I love the larger venues too. I want to call it Great Woods, and I can't think of the actual name now. Down there in
Mansfield?
Yeah, down in Mansfield.
Oh, what is it? Comcast Center now, I think.
Yeah,
right?
the Comcast Center. Yeah. I still remember it being Great Woods.
Well, then it was Tweeter Center. And
oh, yeah.
They went through like 75 name changes in the past 4 years.
I think it was Bank of America something at one point, too.
Yes, probably.
They were great. I can tell you a story. I was working there for one concert for Loco Bazooka a few years back, and I was a part of a team putting on the production of one of the stages. There were 4 stages set up at the place, and I wasn't working the main stage. I was working the second stage. So it was out of the 4, this was the second biggest stage that they had, and all the musicians had to report in. All the bands had to be at the stadium at 7 a.m. to check in. And one of the larger, more well-known bands that were going to be performing on that stage was Days of the New, and they can be considered classic rock now. He was scheduled to perform at 1 in the afternoon. He did not show up to the venue to check in until 3 in the afternoon.
Oh boy.
We had to keep rearranging bands, and he showed up and he was all hungover. Days of the New, the singer, has a pretty bad drinking problem. And he showed up and he was just sweating, and he shows up and he comes over to me, he goes, hey, sorry man, rough night. I'm like, yeah, all right, why don't you just go up on stage now?
Did they end up performing?
He did, and he put on a really good performance. I was shocked.
Wow. That's I guess, I mean, it's the lifestyle for a lot of these guys, right?
Yeah.
A few other concerts that I really liked. I saw Zach Brown Band. That was awesome. Toby Keith was incredible. That was actually at the Comcast Center, Tweeter Center, whatever you want to call it. That was a good show. But how was it working that event? So you must have been working all day and all night when you did that.
Yeah, we were working from, well, the bands had to check in at 7 a.m., so we had to be there, I think, at like 5 a.m., and the concert ended at like 11, 12 at night. So we were there for a very long time because we had to set up the stage, then we had to take the stage down, and, the usual stuff, roll the wires and get everything into the equipment cases onto the trucks, and it was like 100 degrees out that day. It was crazy.
I'm guessing you slept good that night.
Oh, probably.
It's almost like a 24-hour shift. How'd you end up getting into that? Did you just like volunteer? Well, obviously, I'd hope you weren't volunteering for that long. Hopefully they paid you something, but how'd you get into that?
Oh, I didn't get paid. It was basically, I got to work there for free, and I got to enjoy all the other concerts while we didn't have anything going on our stage. So it was kind of like you get to work here, but you also get to enjoy some of the concerts too. And Alice in Chains was the big main act there. Buck Cherry was there. Days of the New, Trejo, Powerman 5000 was there that day, I believe, too. There were a lot. Loco Bazooka is like a giant festival, so there were a ton of good bands there that day.
Wow, that's awesome. That sounds like a fun day. A lot of work, but a fun day.
It was a lot of work, but it was really fun, and I'm glad I had the opportunity to do it.
That's awesome. You got to see a lot of talent that day. So we do have people watching on YouTube as well as HCAM TV. We want to know what concerts you've been to. What was your favorite experience, favorite venue? Feel free to comment on our YouTube stream or our Facebook page or by email to studio@hcam.tv. But some of the comments that we've gotten so far on Facebook, there's a whole lot of them. The Ronnie Lane appeal for Arms show was pretty amazing. That's Bill off of Facebook. Thanks, Bill. And then Elton John, The Garden was one of the concerts that Amy on Facebook has been to. Deb said 3 out of hundreds stand out for me. Aretha Franklin at Boston Symphony Hall, Sarah McLachlan at DCU in Worcester, and Brandy Carlisle at the Orpheum Theater in Boston. Wow, that's quite some impressive talent. I haven't been to the DCU in Worcester for a concert. Have you been there?
Yeah, I've been there. It's pretty good. It's a pretty good venue. I've been there. Actually, I saw Rob Zombie there.
How was that concert? That people must have been nuts at that one.
Rob Zombie always puts on a great show. He's insane.
Oh, absolutely. He looks a lot like the Undertaker.
I just want to apologize too if there's a helicopter coming through on my microphone. It's right above my house.
Well, you are at Shield now, so there's a lot of helicopters flying around.
They're not looking for me.
Okay. No. Another comment on Facebook. The 12-12-12 concert for Sandy Relief at Madison Square Garden. Oh, that must have been a really cool one to be at. I'd imagine that was pretty loaded with some great talent. HCAM board member Michelle Murdoch has been to Five for Fighting at the Wilbur Theater. AC/DC at the Boston Garden. I would love to see AC/DC.
AC/DC I would love to see AC/DC. I think they're retired now.
I think once in a while they still go out and play some shows. I don't know. They might have retired, but I thought I saw something like before all the virus happened that they're going to be playing a couple shows, but maybe not. Tom Petty at Fenway. Fenway's a good venue for a concert. I went to Jason Aldean there. It was pretty awesome, especially if you end up getting the field seating. I wasn't on the field seating there, but I had a straight view right of the stage. They set it up pretty well there. I was actually supposed to be going to another concert at Fenway Park this summer, but we'll see if that happens.
Yeah, we'll see about that. I've never been to Fenway for a concert. I try to avoid Fenway if I can. It's just such a cluster up there, trying to find a place to park, and it's a madhouse up there.
Take the train. That's what I would recommend.
Yeah.
Take the train. Let's see. Chicago back in the days. I'm sure Chicago put on an amazing show. George Strait at Gillette. And Christina says her favorite venue is Great Woods. That's
Yep.
Comcast Center.
Yeah.
Or Tweeter Center or whatever they call it. Darcy says the Blues Traveler at the base of Aspen Mountain. Wow. That sounds fun. Oh, here's another good venue. The Avett Brothers at the Cape Cod Melody Tent. That's a cool venue, the Cape Cod Melody Tent. They have a stage, and it slowly turns throughout the concert, and all the seats are pretty much set up in a circle around it. They have rows and rows of seats. I saw Darius Rucker there, and it's pretty cool. And you won't get dizzy. The stage isn't turning that fast, but it's cool because your view changes throughout the show.
Yeah, you know what? I was actually tempted to go see a show down there. I haven't been down to the Cape Cod for a concert yet, but Phil Collins came around, and I was very tempted to go see Phil Collins, but I my plans ended up changing. I wasn't able to go. He's on my bucket list of people I'd like to see in concert. Phil Collins is at the very top of my bucket list.
Oh, that'd be a great one. He's just a legend. But yeah, I recommend Cape Cod Melody Tent. Cool venue. And the parking's usually not bad either. It's usually pretty easy to find parking around there. And then, of course, you got beaches nearby, so that's always good too. And Darcy also saw the Foo Fighters at Fenway Park. Foo Fighters is one of the ones on my bucket list. I've been wanting to go to one of their concerts for years. I've seen them perform concerts on TV many times. They put so much into it. It looks like it would be an amazing time. James Taylor at Great Woods. That must have been a good one. Kenny Chesney at Gillette. I have been there myself. He always puts on a great show. Pat Benatar at Indian Ranch. That'd be a good one. Indian Ranch, they pull in some good acts, but I used to have a couple friends that lived around there, and it seems like the time that they have the most cars and the most people is when Charlie Daniels is there.
Charlie Daniels is like the main event for Indian Ranch every year.
Oh, just incredible. And hopefully he'll be back. Was he scheduled to perform this summer before everything happened?
I don't know. The past couple of years, he hasn't done Indian Ranch. He's been doing the stadium in Lowell instead. So I'm not sure if he was scheduled for Indian Ranch or not this year. Be interesting. Maybe I'll ask him on Twitter, see if he can give me an answer.
He does respond sometimes on Twitter.
Yeah.
So do you know of any music artists out there, especially like the big time ones, or even some of the more known independent ones that are doing any kind of like virtual concert or anything like that? Because I know you research a lot of this stuff. Have you heard any news about anything like that?
I'm not really sure. I know a lot of bands are doing live shows on Zoom and on Facebook and Instagram, and Sully Erna from Godsmack has started doing a weekly show on Instagram and Facebook. Papa Roach just did something recently. I don't know if Metallica is doing anything right now, but I know that they did use their foundation, their charity foundation, to donate a ton of money to people that are in need from the coronavirus. I haven't, to be honest, I haven't been paying a lot of attention to what musical artists have been doing online. I'm in my own little world lately. So
I think we all are to an extent.
I mean, I'm stuck here in Shield headquarters.
Right. You're in your isolation chamber over there at
Yeah.
Shield headquarters. I would love to see Metallica. I saw a video of them playing on the Howard Stern show, and it was incredible. The sound in that studio they use over there for that the Howard Stern show is really good too. But the concerts that they put on, the performances just sound amazing. But Metallica, they just put so much effort into everything they do. They really are perfectionists, and I'm sure they put on quite a show.
Yeah, another band that I'd like to see live would be America.
Ooh, that'd be a good one.
Yeah, Horse with No Name.
Horse with No Name, yep. A couple of the other comments. Les Paul at the Tritium Jazz Club. That sounds cool. Van Halen, Third Row Greatwoods. That must have been quite a show. Van Halen, actually, I heard something that, they've been doing, some of the superstar artists have been doing some charity concerts. There was one on TV a couple of weekends ago that had Lady Gaga was in it, the Rolling Stones. I watched part of it. The Rolling Stones put on a good performance. All four of them were pretty much zoomed in, and it was pretty funny because there's your dog. The drummer was actually
Nico.
He didn't have his drums in front of him, but he was kind of playing on a bucket. But it was a pretty good performance. And then Elton John was playing in his driveway. He played the piano in his driveway, and he was terrific. And Sir Paul McCartney performed during it. So that was a pretty star-studded event. I'll tell you one thing: the artists in Brazil. My wife's Brazilian, and she loves a lot of the different music over there, and she's gotten me into it. It's terrific stuff. But they've had superstar artists playing like for hours on YouTube, like every night, and they just the set that they have, the sound that they have is like perfect. It's really quite a production that they're all doing over there. And they're all raising money for food banks, restaurants, breweries, stuff like that really needs help right now. So there is some great stuff going on. If you look on YouTube, you can find a lot of stuff throughout the world going on. A lot of the superstar DJs, like David Guetta did a thing in Miami where he was performing like right outside of Miami complex, an apartment complex or a condo complex. And all these people are on their balconies just jamming. So that was a pretty cool scene. Let's see, getting back to some of the comments. Adele at Madison Square Garden. That one sounds good. She's very talented. Lady Gaga at Fenway. James Taylor and Carole King at Tanglewood. What is the best concert you've seen from like a rock legend, like classic rock?
To be honest, I haven't really been to many classic rock concerts. I mean, the only one, Charlie Daniels, is really the only classic rock
okay.
I've been to, but he's not even really classic. Well, he's kind of classic rock, but
well, I got news for you. Most of the concerts you've been to are now classic rock.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, it gets to me sometimes when I'm listening to a classic rock radio station and then something from the 90s comes on and I'm like, oh no.
There's a new station in Boston that plays classic rock, and they've been playing like 90s and like early 2000s stuff, and I'm like, how is this classic rock? Like, they started playing Linkin Park the other day and I was like, no.
Yeah. Oh, I know another classic rock concert you've been to because I was there with you. Clutch.
Yeah,
qualify.
I guess they qualify.
But
Seen Clutch a few times live.
Yes. Yeah, they put on a good show. It's funny because they're one of those bands that have been around forever. They have what, like 20 albums, and not a lot of people know about them, it seems.
No, they're not. They only had one really big song that wasn't even really big on the radio. Careful with that mic, and then everything else hasn't really got hardly any radio play at all. But they're extremely popular with people.
And one band that we discovered on the show that I think a lot of people would like. There's a lot of Beatles fans out there. There's a lot of Metallica fans out there. Well, there's a band called Beatalica, which literally takes Beatles songs and Metallica songs, and they make a hard rock version out of it. It's usually Beatles lyrics with a Metallica riff. Sometimes they switch it up, but they are awesome.
They are. They are fantastic. They're working on a new album right now, actually.
Oh, that's incredible news.
I should also point out another concert that we've been to that was fantastic was Hank Williams III.
Oh, yes. Yes. that was quite a show. That was a rowdy show.
Yes, it was.
Electric Six, that was a good concert.
Electric Six is very good. Another band that doesn't get a lot of airplay, but have a ton of albums and have been around for a long time.
Yeah, I'm surprised that a couple of their songs didn't pick up because they were very catchy.
Yeah, a lot of their songs are very catchy.
Some of the other comments, Bob Dylan and Paul Simon at George Amphitheater and George Washington. Wow. That sounds like quite a show. Kenny G at the Milwaukee State Fair.
I'd like to see Kenny G.
Oh, absolutely. He's a legend. He has a good sense of humor, too. I'm trying to think. He was in a movie. Oh, I know what it was. It was Bad Moms 2. And my wife was watching it. And in the movie, there's like a scene where the mother, who's like just this rich person, likes everything very proper. She's throwing like this elegant party. And Kenny G was performing in the at the party. And then the daughter comes home and she's not so happy that the mother's throwing this elegant party without telling her. So pretty much crashes it. And she's kicking Kenny G out of the party. And Kenny G just turns around and says something like, "You're really going to kick me, Kenny G, out of your party?" It was pretty good. But so anyways, I went off on a bit of a tangent. Some of the other concerts people have been to, Melissa Etheridge at Great Woods, Guns N' Roses. I would like to see them live. Not in this lifetime tour at TD Garden. Would you see Guns N' Roses live? I think they'd put on a good show.
I would see them live. You know, they're going around with the original lineup, so I mean, why wouldn't you want to see them? You know?
Is it the original now, or didn't they change their singer?
No, Axl's been through it the whole way. They changed everyone else in the band for a time. Yeah. But no, Slash is back and Axl's still there. Everyone, the original lineup, and I believe they're under contract to do so many shows, and they have to stay together. They can't replace anybody, or they won't get paid.
Right. Yeah. Good. Well, you know, there was a lot of in-band fighting, so it's
oh yeah, there's a long history of that with Guns N' Roses.
Yeah, it's like, all right, you guys got to stop changing people and stay together, please, because you know the fans aren't happy. Pink Floyd at Foxborough Stadium. I've been to the Pink Floyd Laser Show in Worcester. That was cool. I'd love to see, obviously, Pink Floyd live. I've seen many videos of Pink Floyd concerts. They look tremendous. Then someone said Woodstock '99. That was the Woodstock that ended all Woodstocks.
Yes, that was. They had everybody there. That was Limp Bizkit. Remember, we're getting blamed for everything that happened there.
Because they played break stuff and everyone started breaking stuff.
They started lighting fires and climbing the towers, and yeah.
Well, believe it or not, that is just about the end of our time for today. Eric, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll have to have you back and talk some more music.
Yeah, definitely.
For everyone here at HCAM, I'm Tom Nappy. We thank you for watching the Hopkinton Hangout Hour.